So I have had a complicated relationship with jujitsu. I initially started training in November of 2021, and I went to 50/50, which is run by Ryan Hall in Arlington, Virginia. It was cool. He came in and he choked a guy out in our class. He was like, "Hey, buddy," he was like, this is like the white belts only class. He was like, "Anybody ever seen a guy get choked out?" Like, no. And my friend Pearson, who I still talk to, he was, all volunteer. He's like, okay. So then like he just gets choked out, and then I never saw Pearson again. And then he hits me every now and then. He's like, can I talk about how to get out of consulting and into software sales? Sure, bro. A little while after that, I moved to Austin, and I just happened to be down the street from where John Danaher and Gordon Ryan and Nicholas Marigali were training. Like, they had a couple of spots that they trained at, but the place that was open to the public was this Henzo Gracie location down the street from me. So I'd go in there and I'd mess around, do some no-gi. Like, I'd sit, like I always sit in the front of the class, like me. That's just how I've always been in school. Me, John Danaher. I'm like, this is awesome. I don't know anything about jujitsu, but I love master teachers. This guy's amazing. I just liked his vibe. I just got smoked in there, dude. Like, I remember Luke Evans and like Big Dan, like you'd roll with these guys, even though it's like their sixth class training session of the day. Dude, I got mauled. Doesn't even begin to describe it. So I moved to New York, and I'm thinking about it. I'm like, like I feel like I should do this, but basically, dude, like I had all of these stories around why I should do it, and why I shouldn't do it, and why it couldn't work, and why whatever. And I was like, I got to get this noise out of my brain. I've got to do something here. And that is one of the best applications of the stack, which is like you are triggered by something. You have something going on, and there's too much noise in your brain, and there's too much emotional, basically friction for you to be able to sift through and see what's actually happening. And so the way that this goes is it goes like this. It's like, what domain of the core four are you stacking? That would be just those domains, the way that we separate our life: body, being, balance, business. So it's like, all right, this is the body. What, who, or what are you stacking? My relationship, my hesitance to jujitsu. All right, so why has this triggered you to feel rage? So it's not necessarily that I feel rage about it, but the rage stack is just the deepest and most complex and broadest of all of these stacks. So they all have this idea of identify this trigger and and identify the story that goes with it, and then rewrite the story so that it's aligned with what's true and what gets you to your goals. And the end result there is that these things last. Like, I can look at from when I first got into corporate sales, I was pissed that I took it so personally that somebody didn't show up to what was going to be my first meeting right after I proved to meet with people. And it was cool. It was like Bush's Baked Beans, and I had self-prospected this guy, and I had reached out to him, whatever, and he didn't show up. I was like, like, everything about him, like, what a low IQ, a terrible individual. And it's like, yeah, okay. And then I stacked, and it's like, maybe you just didn't do a good enough job on the call covering urgency such that he was like, I have to be at that call. I will miss my kid's soccer game to be on this call because I got to talk to this guy. And that changed the way that I approached basically everything. And it's like forever just from this one stack. This kind of thing shows up every stack that you do. The more that you put into it, the more that you're going to get out of it. Well, that said, the rage stack is the deepest and the broadest of them. So if we're looking, it's like, okay, now why has this, the object that you're stacking, why has this relationship or hesitance to jujitsu triggered you to feel rage? Because I know it is, if nothing else, fun. If nothing else, it bonds you. If nothing else, it builds community. If nothing else, it sets you apart amongst men. Yet I can talk myself out of it with more ease than anything else. I feel like I should be going, or at the very least, I should want to go. Okay. So this is why, the best of my ability, the best of my knowledge, I'm like, this is why I feel rage. Now, if you could scream at this thing that has triggered you, this resistance inside of you, what would you say? And here is where you just don't hold back at all. It's like if I was holding up a punching bag to you and I said, just let everything out on this punching bag. It's your responsibility to just wring that orange out, or wring this towel out of all water. Just let everything go. Because once you let this go, what this does is a couple of things. It really clears out that noise, because human beings are not, and you'll know this from sales, like we buy on emotion and we justify later with logic. So we have emotion getting on our way. We can't see what's going on. So we let all of that emotion out. The greater point of what this does is it trains us to identify emotion and to identify that we have emotion, which as men, especially in America, we got a complicated relationship with. We have just as much emotion as all other beings, but we're only trained that we can only feel anger, which we feel much more than that. And anger is often top level, something underneath it. So you just let it rip, dude. And in this case, like I'm ripping at myself, or I'm ripping at this thing, my relationship, my hesitance to jiu-jitsu. Say all the mean swear words you want, this is for you. So if you could force this relationship, this hesitance to jiu-jitsu to say anything, what would it be? I'd force me to go out and try it consistently for a month without missing at least 2 times a week. Okay. Well, what do you genuinely think about this relationship hesitance? Like, I think it makes sense. You have to prioritize time, energy, and BJJ takes up a lot, and a lot of extra body maintenance is involved. A lot of this is like the story that I'm telling myself, right? It's the best that I know right there. So what is it that you never want to experience again? I'm like, I don't ever want to have a BS story, the kind of thing like, I would have joined the military, but it's like, yeah, cool. Everybody says that. I would be training BJJ, but it's like, you don't want to be a guy with excuses. That's not everybody. It's like, what do I want for me? I don't want to be an excuse guy. All right. So what are the non-emotional facts? Remember, now we've got the emotions out of the way. So now it's like, all right, cool. Emotions are out of the way. So what are the facts as far as we can tell about this thing? I have resistance to doing anything if I'm not training with the best of the best for that discipline. This shows up for me, getting a nutrition coaching certification. There's a reason I got precision nutrition and both of the certs. It's like, short of getting a degree, as good as you can find. Same thing with fitness. Could I have done a strong first weekend certification? I could have. Did I just end up getting all 4 of the instructor certifications? Yes, I did. It's like singing. I'm not going to study with any random teacher. I'm coming to New York City and I'm studying with the best person that I can find, et cetera and so forth. So I guess I literally wrote that in there. Look, I'm nice and consistent. So it's like, all right, so I'm 1 mile away from John and Nick, and I trained with them like 6 times, dude. I'm full of it. Okay. Other stuff is that there's a high risk of physical injury. We know that. My physical training is built around longevity. So I don't use barbells, one of the reasons. The nearest decent gym for me, 30-minute walk. You got to train a couple times a week to get any kind of good. It's high maintenance, right? You got to shower right afterwards. Like, there's a lot of showering involved, just this other stuff that gets in the way. So I'm listing out all of this stuff that's like, here's why my story makes sense, right? Okay, so what is the story that I'm telling myself? It's that BJJ would be a high maintenance addition to my life, and its practical real world utility is just what? Peace. Okay.
Delirium.
Dude, it's like, I buzzed them, dude. Just leave it. I don't care. So it's that the story is that, look, this is going to take a lot of my time, and it's just going to be a lot. Okay. And ultimately, I know damn well Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is not going to matter if you have a knife, or if I'm in a bar fight, or if we're on concrete, or if we're not on mats, dude, because the real world doesn't care. The real world is going to let you punch. So, but it would increase my perception amongst men, right? You'll think I'm cooler if I have a blue belt. And women would be like, ooh, he does BJJ. Like, what a man. He knows how to fight. Okay. So it seems like a massive undertaking, and I can't see myself making the effort to commit to being great. So therefore it's a no. All right. So describe the single word feelings that arise for you when you tell yourself that story. Well, when I tell myself back, when I hear myself say, dude, this is the story that I'm telling myself, I'm like, oh my God, that's just, I can't believe that's me. If I heard that, I would be like, you're full of shit. All right. So what are the specific thoughts and actions that arise for you when you tell yourself that story? And this, again, like the releasing of emotion, is like, dude, don't hold back. What do you actually think? And what do you actually say that you want to do? One of the key meta points here is that if we can give ourselves the permission, if we can have the courage to write what we are afraid to write, to admit what we are afraid to admit, that we feel and think, we have just gained a tremendous amount of power. And that's the only way that we are going to further get to the truth, to the reality of what's true for us, because reality is subjective anyway. And it's like, when I tell myself that story, I just want to go get a freaking blue belt, because I'd have one by now if I had just stuck with it from November 2021, right? Yep. At the rate of progress, commitment that I do everything else, come on, dude. Like, of course. I want to go train with my friend JJ, who is like he's a self-defense expert. Dude, he'll kill you in 5 different ways before you can blink. I want to choke someone out, which I did actually, and it's not fun. I did not like it. I want to quit thinking that I have something to prove. So it's like, I tell myself that story, and it's funny. It's like, oh, I'm not thinking I want to prove something. It's like, I want to quit feeling like I have something to prove. But then it's also like, you know what? I just would rather get a conceal and carry and know how to use it. It's that I want to be a Ronin, dude. I tell myself that. I'm like, I want to be an unemployed samurai, learning how to kill stuff. And I'm like, I've done 700 of these. I'm like, I want to quit because I know exactly where this is going to go. I'm going to be in a gi very soon. But you can't quit, and you also can't pretend like you know where it's going to go. You have to be in the moment and go with the flow. Otherwise, you rob yourself of the revelations that come from it and those learnings that stay with you. Okay, so what evidence do you have to support this story is absolutely true? Well, my past experiences with BJJ, even in this new self-validating and disciplined version, right? I start that from about beginning of August 2022. In the beginning of 2023, I was going to train with Nick Marigali, all of 2 times. And then having some privates with my friend A, who's a beast, and he's on Team New Wave. So a lot of long discussions with my martial artist friend JJ. I was like, hey, is this worth my time? And he's like, I mean, it'll make you feel good, but I'll still kill you. So is the story, and then you repeat the story back to yourself, is this true? Now you might say, yeah, you know what, it is true. But the way that it works, it's always wrong. So you just always say no. So then we go, all right, what might be possible for you if this story was false? Okay, so we let go of the story, which this is important because just in order to train and build empathy, we got to be able to hold multiple different perspectives in our head at the same time, right? So as a leader, you got people who are coming to you. It's like, I don't really care who started it. I don't care what's what. I just need to figure out how we move forward in a way that doesn't create friction and burn bridges. All right, so if this story is not true, then what? Well, it might be possible that JJ doesn't know what he's talking about. It might be possible that I just haven't found the right people for me. Might be possible that I have incorrect expectations. Might be possible that finding the best and most famous person, the way that I've been doing, isn't the best option. That's been true in every other discipline that I've ever studied. It might be possible that having some tools is better than having no tools, right? It's better that I can just throw you. It's better that I could just wrap you up than to not at all. So I might not even need to get a blue belt. It might be possible that the utility it would bring me is something that I haven't imagined because I haven't committed. One of my big beliefs is that if you just stay connected to what's possible, but if you don't do that, then you just shut off what could be. You never know. Like I've met so many people from, where this goes. I have a bunch of friends from jiu-jitsu, and I had a couple of experiences over the past year where I'm like, this fundamentally changed me, and it's like, I never gotten that if I hadn't just gone, if I hadn't done this stack. So, all right, now, regardless of your rage trigger, resistance, hesitance, or the relationship and the story, what do you want for yourself? Okay, I don't know. What do I want? I want to not just feel, sometimes you're walking around, you're like, got this on lock, dude. If a bear came and fought me, I'd have it. It's like, no. You feel that way, but you're an idiot. I want to not just feel dangerous, but I want to be dangerous. I want to actually know I could do something. I do want to have martial training and skills that are at least equivalent to my business knowledge and skills. Like I'm a blue belt in business knowledge and skills. I want to be at least that good because my goal for my 30s was to learn business and martial strategy to the same level that I learned stage performance and fitness and health in my 20s. So I'd love to have another hobby that I'm decently handy at that I can connect with people on. I'd love to have something else that informs my thinking that I can add to my skill stack and mental model. And I'd love to have, for a woman to have reason beyond me being physically strong and fit, I'd love for them to be able to feel safe in all ways in my presence, more so than most men. So that's what I want, right? Cool. What do you want for this relationship hesitance? For it to go away? What do you want for it and you in and beyond this situation? Well, I want to live in peace and harmony with this basically demon that's eating away at me. So then we look at the original story and then what I say I want and all of this stuff. And then we have to say, if you keep on telling yourself this original story, is it going to give you what you want? So basically, BJJ is too much for you. If you can't go all the way, don't do it at all. It's like, nope, that's not going to get me what I want. All right, so are you ready to let go of the original story? Yes. So what is the me version of this story? And then this is where we just basically do ad-libs. We just take the story that you wrote and you just put the prompt, me, in there. So I am looking for every reason, or Michael is looking for every reason not to attend BJJ and talk himself out of it with indignation. What evidence can you find to prove that this story is true? It is true. Okay. So then we review what we want again. Well, telling yourself this story, hey, that you are looking for every reason to talk yourself out of it. Is that going to give me what I want? No, it's not. What's the opposite version of this story? That BJJ is a high maintenance addition to my life, et cetera, and so forth. The opposite version is that BJJ is a low maintenance addition to my life. And it does have practical real world utility. It would not increase my perception amongst men or women, and I wouldn't enjoy it. It actually is so convenient in my schedule, and I can see myself adjusting my entire world to become elite at it. And therefore, it's a yes. Well, what evidence can you find that this story is true? Well, I'm laughing as I'm writing this because funny happens when surprise meets truth. And I'm like, oh, this is actually, a lot of this is really true. I could totally do all of this. All of this is true. So will telling yourself this opposite story give me what I want? Remember, what I wanted is to not just feel dangerous, but be dangerous, to have something I can connect with people on, to have something else that informs my thinking. Well, if I tell myself that BJJ is a low maintenance addition, it's going to be easy and I don't have to become great at it. And it's actually just going to be, no one's going to care if I do it one way or the other. And I'd happily adjust my entire schedule. Then that does give me what I want. All right. So then we let go of all these stories. Tell yourself the original again. Review what I want. What is the desired version of the story that you want to create? So the desired version can't change the facts. It's just like, dude, what do you want to tell yourself? You gotten all these other perspectives. You write your own story. Okay, so from this, I'm getting the amount of time required for BJJ to have massive asymmetric net positive benefits in my life is way less than I tell myself it does. And committing to it for a solid month will quell a lot of frustrations that I have and answer some stuff like my relationship to it and what I'm insecure about. What evidence can you find to prove this story is true? I got a lot of pattern recognition. I got pattern recognition in social situations, physical disciplines, and learning new skills. It's probably right. So just telling myself this story that like, it's not going to be, you don't actually have to do very much for it to give you all of what you want and probably more. Does that give me what I want? Yes, it does. Then comes the next part, which is like we start to look for the application and its broader relevance. All right, why has this been positive? Because it's shown me how much I'm overthinking. And it's let me know that if I'm overthinking, I'm underfeeling. And I'm underfeeling here massively. I feel insecure about my total lack of self-defensibility. Sure, a few BJJ sessions are not going to make me as dangerous as my friend JJ, but they'll make me more dangerous than I am, which might be just dangerous enough to protect somebody that I love, including myself. It's shown me that I do have the capacity for it and the time for it. It's shown me the story that gets me what I want doesn't involve other people giving a fuck about a hobby that, let's be real, even if I'm elite at it, they'll think I'm largely just humping dudes and getting humped and being a closeted homosexual, right? Like, most dudes are like, dude, I'm not putting that gooch in my face. Get out of here. And most women would look at it and be like, why don't you just stab him? What's going on here? Like, what are you guys really doing when I'm not here, you know? So it's like, nobody cares, dude. And all the stuff that I originally thought, like, you'll like me more, I'm more of a man, or like the women will be like, oh, he's such a man. It's like, no, dude, it's not true. Actually, the opposite is probably true if you go do it. So why don't you just do what you want to do anyway? And then why has this been positive? Like, what is the singular lesson that you are taking from this stack? And then this is going to be unique to you, right? Like when we work on voice stuff, there's going to be, you'll do something and it'll be like, how does that feel? That's a total game changer. You could say that feels like spaghetti. I'll be like, that, I could never put that in a book. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me at all. But if it makes sense to you and you think spaghetti and you get that sound, great. It's the same thing with the lesson. It's like, you know what I get from this? You don't need a reason to explore what you're curious about and feel called to. That's it. So then how does this apply? This is really unique to the Rage stack. You're like, apply this lesson to each of the domains. Hey, well, you know what? BJ, like literally I'm called to that physically. Just go do it. I don't owe an explanation to anybody. How does this apply to your being? You know, your relationship with higher power, you know, if you call it a higher power, I don't know where you're at with God, etc. For me, it's just, I'm like, God. Well, for me, it's like, I feel called to just be like, I am learning and focusing on directly God right now in my life. No longer being like, yeah, I got a vibe from the universe. Cool. It's like, you know what? I feel called to just talk about this online. I started doing it and my life got way, way better. What about your balance domain? You know, your relationship to significant other or your kids. I don't have either of those. So I just look at it as relationship to myself and, you know, relationship to whoever I might be dating when that happens. So I'll be like, you know what? I think having separate bedrooms is a good idea. This is like back in February. I was like, I think that'd be a good idea. I totally get it. And I also feel like saying, I want to move slow. Something I feel called to do. Why do I need to go to these, yield to these other pressures, capitulate there? I don't want to, you know, try to sleep with 1,000 women just because I'm single. Don't feel called to that. And no, I would rather not be on the apps. I don't care if other people are doing it. This is what I want. And then how does this apply to your business domain? Well, it's like, you know, if I had just followed through on movie making, which is like what I wanted to do my entire life growing up, basically up until I discovered that I was better than average at singing, I was like trying to go to film school. And it's like, even if I had just in my spare time continued with that, I'd have built a major builder skill, you know, like I wouldn't need an editor. I'd be able to make really high quality content so fast. If I had followed through with blogging from 2013, because I had a decent amount of momentum for somebody who just threw up a blog, you know, for 6 weeks, I'd have millions of dollars and millions of followers. Same thing with podcasting, etc. All of this stuff. It's like, dude, all the stuff that you felt called to do, that's right. Quit ignoring it. So then what's the most significant revelation? Well, it's following your curiosities for you and no one else will bring you experiences that fulfill you beyond what you could ever imagine. What immediate actions are you committed to taking leaving this stack? Explore Gregor Gracie. Because when I moved here, I had picked out, I was like, I know what I want to do. I want to box and I want to do jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
I was looking for in a jiu-jitsu gym. I was like, I don't want to get staff. It's got to be super, super clean. And the people who train there have got to be actually in the game and killers. Gregor Gracie is that. Gleason's, I was like, same thing. Boxing gym. Oh, great. It's the most famous boxing gym in the world. Cool. That was a big reason why I picked this exact spot. So then, dude, I went to Gregor Gracie the next week, and that's my people. So do you see now, like, what that cognitive reframing is?
Yeah.
All right.
No, this makes it clear.
I just threw a lot at you, dude.
This is a massive stack here.
Yeah. I wasn't going to show you, as an example, a really thin one that gives you the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
So this is like, if you see a smaller stack, it'll just be like, hey, what's the trigger? What's the story? What do you want to do? But if you understand this full thing, it lets you know how to use it. This came from over the summer. I was doing a month-long clown workshop intensive. So it's like, what am I stacking? Just clown month, week 2 recap. Because I'm taking notes every day in class. What has clown month, week 2 recap activated me? That the poetic body / feeling of wonder lives somatically in me, at least in the same place as surrendering to and connecting to God meditation. The sensation of finally letting go of thoughts, soul leaving the body, and basically like that this thing, important for this, feels the same as this. What does that mean? What can I do with that, right? Clown lives in a state of wonder for whom everything is a discovery. So like you can just go as deep in this as you want to get out of it. Like stuff that came up that was important. It's like this note that I had, are we in the habit of making ourselves smaller? We have contempt for the performer who pulls punches, who doesn't fully commit or relies on something cheap or false. The counter mask voice for me is inverted because my body is the mask. So my falsetto, this like uncontrolled like little thing that like you don't expect, like it's actually not a fake thing. It's like this reframe for me that I never would have seen had this master teacher not pointed it out. And it's like your problems aren't what make you interesting. More interesting than your problems is your naughtiness, your desire to break the rules, your ferocity, your laughter. Just concepts that'll make more sense, if you're in this class. We love to, like, contradiction is normal, but it's fascinating to watch a person walk through it. Like, we love to hide, but we want to be seen. You are irresistible when you let yourself be seen. Who could really see you and not fall in love with you? Falling in love is another thing that's in the world of clown. It's hard to let everything drop, but when you do, you become magnetic. So I don't know what other people take from this, but for me, all my brain was going was like, dude, this is great. It's great for being on stage, but also like, hello, this is life. This is communication. This is like everything. This guy's wife is a master yoga teacher. So, he's talking about yoga. It's like yoga makes more room in the body for the self. And it's like, and then just tying together more dots or connecting more dots for me, just from stuff I've been learning over this in particular past year. Relaxing on stage requires internal and external release. So then it's like, what is the story you're telling yourself about this big discovery? Studying clown is an unexpected yet highly congruent part of my journey, and excellence in its pursuit is complemented by other current quests, like starving and getting ripped and learning a little bit of yoga and like being really deep in this pursuit of knowing God. It makes tangible ideas that would otherwise be difficult to physically grasp. Specifically, the more yourself you are, that the more limitless and unique your creations and the more we love you. That's hard to intellectualize, but when we know what it feels like somatically, we're like, oh, yeah. And then it gives us more ability to go and put that elsewhere. It's the missing link that I've been seeking since leaving formalized actor training. And it's the opposite of what I would have gravitated towards, which this other physical training method, Suzuki Viewpoints, is like basically going to the agoge. It's Spartan actor training. Clown is not that. And it's like, whoa, this thing that I never would have gone towards for a variety of reasons, nature and nurture, actually was everything that I would have been looking for in there. It's things to think about. So again, describe the single word feelings that arise for you when you touch on that. And one of the reasons that we want to get used to identifying feelings with stories is that you will have an emotional response of a certain kind when you come to truth. Then again, describing the thoughts and actions. So it's like, hey, what do we want to do here? Let's let ourselves play and imagine and explore. I want to go to this. I want to keep going. I want to do all this. I want to start Vipassana tomorrow. Like all this stuff. I want to double down on my path because it's shown that following my curiosity, again, remember 5 months before this, I had done that stack on jiu-jitsu, which is like, keep following your curiosity. Why has this discovery been extremely positive? because it's allowed me to see that in order to get the most out of life, you must exist from a place of wonder. On stage, this means being your authentic self, letting your clown be the foundational building block of any character. Off stage, this means sustaining a connection to God. Again, I don't care what you believe. This is just what I was connecting to give you an example. It's allowed me to connect dots between seemingly unrelated experiences like boxing, running, psychedelic medicine, physical acting, which confirms I'm on the right path for what I'm seeking to do. What is the singular lesson about life you are taking from this stack? Relax. And that comes from something that I skipped over up here, which came from boxing training that started, 8 months before this. Just like my first boxing lesson with Don in November, the word and idea of relax has become prominent in my life when I relax in training, because he's like, relax, relax. My arms are less tired, my punches are more accurate and more powerful. When I relax while running, because I was doing a lot of running this past year, I fatigue later and my stride improves. I can feel contraction in my traps just fall away. My shoulders lower, my mind clears, and I feel relief. When I relax while singing, I have access to various apparati of my body, and they do what I want them to, and they don't do what I don't want them to. In the MDMA journey that I took, I felt relaxation, true relaxation, for the first time in my adult life internally. My tension dropped, my guard lowered. So that ties back to, whoa, you just be yourself on stage, just like let it all go. Feel what it feels like, then then you can recreate that. Again, it's like when you say spaghetti, doesn't need to make sense to me, but it makes sense to you. That's like me just going spaghetti. When I'm just hanging out with you or hanging out wherever, I can just let people in. I can let myself be seen. So how does this lesson apply to your balance domain? Because that's where I was applying it. If you don't let yourself relax, which is not about output for type A hunter sales killers, dude, got to learn this, then you can never see what's right in front of you. See also the whole point of this thing, get into reality. How could you not be relaxed when you believe it's not that serious? It's one of my key core beliefs. It's not that serious. The most significant revelation or insight leaving this Discover stack. See, a lot of this is the same as the Rage stack or any other stack. That which keeps out also traps in. So we're building up these shields, but we're keeping stuff inside. Not good. I have been on defense from the world authority figures in search of peace since the first grade. If I can identify and reframe aspects of myself which were constructed for defense, especially those that masquerade as being for offense, right? That came to me from when this master teacher pointed out to me, hey, dude, that masking voice, it's inverted. It's like, I thought that I pretend like this is for offense, but it's really for defense. Then I will have more knowledge of myself, because knowing thyself is the only way to really get any real growth done. That's the end goal of all growth, and it's also like what you need to have real growth. I'll have more knowledge of, in addition, latent patterns and beliefs. And then we already know what we do with beliefs and patterns. We identify them, we reframe them, shift focus. I would do a Discover stack, dude. I mean, for example, I got a whole bunch of books on different topics here, right? You could do the essays of Warren Buffett. I wanted to read this because, like I said, business, right? I need to learn. Who better to learn from than the greatest value investor of all time? But you can read a million books on communication and written communication from the Harvard Business Review or whatever, but you know who's better at written communication? Warren Buffett.
Yep.
Right? So this is two birds with one stone, dude. I'll be reading something and I'm like, wait, you said this way, he set that up. I'm like, okay, one, dude, that's how you explain a complex, amazing thing really simply and in a sentence and in a way that is narrative without explaining. But two, look at this business principle. And you can put that all in there, or we could take the unfettered mind, right? Look at something in here. And then you could apply this to your relationship to yourself, spouse, kids, or to business, etc. No rules. So you see how it's very rigid, but it's also very fluid. The best way to think about this is it's not about, 75 hard, read 10 pages. No, that's not how you study something significant. Bro, you could read one, Psalm 26, right? I read this thing a couple of times in the past month. And each time I read it, I'm really okay, I'm in that. I've got that poetic body, that body of wonder opened up. And I'm really focusing on the text and everything. I'm being really intentional and being like, all right, this. And I read it a week later at the exact same time of day in the exact same place with the same amount of focus. And I see something totally different in one line that I didn't see, that I wasn't even aware of before. And I was like, purify my mind and heart. I didn't even realize how deep that was, how deeply I needed that right now. Last week I didn't even hit, and today it's hitting so hard by surprise.
Yep.
Boom, hypocrites. Oh, dude, I didn't even realize, wow, look at how much I've been betraying myself because I haven't really known myself, because I haven't been in touch with reality. I've been too mimetically influenced. I need these hypocrites gone from my life. Wow, they've been removed from my life, and I'm I'm sore that they're removed from my life. I'm wishing that they're back in my life. No, that's amazing.
Yep.
So you just read until something hits you. And it could be 2 lines in, you're like, that's it, dude. That's it. Like you see on my Instagram, I just post stuff that hits me.